everybody, it's Lori, and I am here today with my October reading wrap-up. In the month of October, I read 11 books, and I'm not prepared. So, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Of the 11 books, 8 of them were ebooks, 1 was a regular book, and 2 were audiobooks. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my nonfiction and then move into my fiction. So I've read 2 nonfiction books, both ebooks, in October. And they were both about college. One is Where You Go Is Not Who You Are by Frank Bruni. And the other one is The Price You Pay for College by Ron Lieber. So, in Where You Go Is Not Who You Are, it's basically talking about whether your college makes that much of a difference in your life. Assuming you go to college and get a degree, does a name brand, well-known college give you better chances than others? And obviously the reason I'm interested in these college books is that Eva's a senior and we are suffering through the application process right now. She was applying to 13 schools. We eliminated 2 more of them because of the amount of financial information they needed that we don't really feel like we can even figure out what they want because of our complicated situation. So, but that's still 11 applications plus portfolios and interviews and essays and scholarships. So it's taking up a lot of our lives right now. So anyway, I was kind of hoping that this book would be one that I could give to Eva to help her. But, and I'm not saying it's not something I could give her, but she is a very artsy person, and this book is written from a very businessy perspective, so she probably wouldn't appreciate it as much. Most of the case studies seem to be highly paid professionals, and she's going to be a starving artist most likely. So the vibe of the book, to use a word she likes to use all the time, was off for her. Me being somebody who did have one of my majors in college was accounting. Like, I like numbers, I like business, I like all that stuff. So I didn't mind it. I thought it was pretty helpful in calming me down. I didn't pass it on to Eva. I figure if she gets to the point that she feels like she needs that, if she gets rejected from some of her top tier schools she's applying to, maybe then would be a time for her to read this book. But since it's not really targeted towards students like her, I didn't have her do it. As for The Price You Pay for College, this was a frustrating book. And not because the book is bad in any way, but it just basically talks about how college funding works, how college costs work, how scholarship money is used, what merit aid is versus need-based aid, and basically that colleges are just, every single one of them kind of makes this crap up as they go. So it's very frustrating because, as I said, he was applying to 11 colleges. My net price calculator amounts ranged from about $9,000 a year to $75,000 a year on colleges that she looked at when we were trying to pick which ones to apply to. So I am still waiting. I mean, she has been accepted to 3 schools so far, and she has been offered scholarships to 2 of those 3 schools so far. So we do know a little bit, but we still don't know the federal aid portion yet. although we've done the FAFSA and everything. So if you want to despair about college, or if you are currently struggling through college financial aid nonsense, this at least gives you a little bit of a hint into what's going on, but it's awful. So I don't have a lot more to say. Like, college in America sucks. The system is completely broken. And I don't mean the colleges themselves suck, but the process of college in America sucks. And yeah, I just am looking forward to this being over, but I know it's not going to be over till like May. And I mean, then it's still not going to be over because I'll have to do the FAFSA every year for the next like 6 years. So it's just going to be my constant state of life for a while. Yay. Let's see. I read 2 classics. Okay, take that back. I listened to 2 classics this month. The first was All the Pretty Horses by Cormac McCarthy. So this is part of the Border trilogy. I really need to sneeze. So our main character and his cousin, after his grandfather passes away and the farm is being sold, the family ranch or whatever, in Texas, he and his cousin like go off to Mexico. And this book is interesting because it's got almost several different styles of books within it. So there's this romance plot line where he falls in love with his employer's daughter. There's this prison plot line when he's thrown in prison for something he didn't do. It just, like, it's a very wide book for as short as it is. There's a lot of stuff in it. And I will say this was one of the close reads books for the year. And I enjoyed the close read discussions. And I enjoyed the book to some extent, but it's really still not my type of book. I mean, it's kind of Western-y. And it was good, but like not something that I'm going to come back to a whole lot. But my husband did really enjoy it. So for his birthday, I got him a collection of all of the Border trilogy books so that he can continue on to those other ones. And maybe I will someday too, since we have them in the house. And then the other classic was Antigone by Sophocles. So these are we're doing world literature this year. And so one of the early ones I picked was the Oedipal plays of Sophocles. So I started with Antigone, which I think was probably the wrong thing to do. But I had found a podcast of the full performances on Audible. So Antigone was the first one on there. I don't know if it was listed alphabetically or what. So that's the one I listened to. It's been a long time. I did read Antigone and Oedipus Rex, I think, in high school. So it's been a while. But it's an interesting storyline. I had forgotten a lot of the details behind it, but since I think it kind of listened out of order because of the way it was set up, I'm not really sure which one I should have read first, but I'll be probably listening to those in the month of November anyway. My one physical book was a fantasy book, which I haven't managed a fantasy book in a really long time. So I read Dies the Fire by S.M. Sterling. This is, I think it's like the Novels of the Change or something like that. It's a huge series. I think there's like 15 books in it. My husband has them all. So this is book 1. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really interesting premise. So basically the premise behind the series is that something happens that causes all of like technology to stop working. So guns don't work, planes don't work, and it's just chaos because this is set, I think it's set in like the late 90s. So We're following a couple of different main characters in this one, Mike Havel and Juniper Mackenzie. And they do intersect at certain points in the book, but they kind of start in different places. So Mike Havel is a pilot and he crashes the plane when this event happens, and Juniper is a Wiccan woman with a teenage daughter. The daughter is deaf, so they have sign language in here, which is kind of cool. And she kind of is a performer, so she like performs at Renaissance fairs and stuff like that. So she has like a cabin that her grandfather left to her, I think, or uncle, I can't remember. A relative left her a cabin in his will. So she and a group of people, including most of her coven, go to that cabin and kind of start farming there right away. And Mike Havel has this family that he was flying the plane for, that he is trying to get to some land that they own as well, but they're much further away, so they kind of turn into a roving band of like heroes. They like help people. I mean, not just out of the goodness of their heart, but there's a lot of really evil things going on because of this change that happened. So, first book was good. I have started the second book, but I think I only finished chapter 1, which for some reason jumps to England. But chapter 2, we're back with Mike and Juniper, so I'm like partway through chapter 2 right now. So I will probably slowly work my way through this series, but my attention span for like fantasy sci-fi type things is pretty low at the moment. I mean, it has been for several months, so not surprising, I guess. And then, other than that, and I'm sorry if you can hear tractors outside. There might be a little rumbling in the background because they're harvesting the field. So other than that, the rest of them were romance novels because apparently I've become a romance novel reader. So the first one I read was Any Dream Will Do by Debbie Macomber. And this was the 4th book in the Second Chances series. Oh, never mind. This is the 4th book in the New Beginnings series. And this one has a female protagonist named Shay, and she ends up going to prison for stealing some money to give to her brother because her brother told her that he was going to be killed if he didn't pay back this guy. So she has kind of a rough past anyway. She embezzles this money, she goes to jail, and so the story really starts when she gets out of jail because she has nowhere to go. She kind of wanders into a church and she meets the pastor there just because he happened to be there. He is a widower and he's struggling right then. But he, when she walks in, he talks to her a few minutes and he thinks that he should try to help her. So he calls a friend who has a ministry that helps people, who helps, I think specifically women, but I'm not totally sure on that are homeless, maybe just out of jail. I can't remember exactly the premise of the agency or the mission that he has. But so the pastor takes her to this and she gets into this program, and they become friends, and then they become slightly more than friends. But of course there's a lot of drama because she is not the type of woman that the church approves of for their pastor. So they have to go through a lot of things there. So this was cute. A little preachier than some of them. I don't mind terribly from time to time, but I don't know. I don't think this was my favorite of the New Beginnings series. But yeah, it was interesting, and I did enjoy the characters and the premise. It's just with one of the characters being a pastor, it just felt a little preachier than some of them. The next one was Accidentally Engaged by Farrah Heron. And this is a story where our main female character has a family who's kind of likes to be in her business. And she's got a sister that she kind of is struggling with at the moment. And she happens to run into the neighbor across the hall who's just moving in, and they start flirting, and then he finds out who she is, and he kind of gets all weird about it because apparently he's working for her father, and her father basically gave him the job in hopes that he might be a match for his daughter. So they hit it off really well, but she struggles with this because it's kind of what her parents want. So they're both, it's set in Canada. Both main characters are of Indian descent, I believe. And their background is Muslim. And what she really wants out of life is, she doesn't really love her job, but she loves baking. So she would really like to go to this culinary school for baking. And she finds out from a friend that there's going to be some sort of contest for like, kind of like the Food Network sort of thing. The Canadian equivalent of that, I guess. That is like home cooks, but they're supposed to be couples. So she ends up saying, you know, I'm not going to do it. I'm not in a couple, whatever. But then she's hanging out with the cute neighbor that she hit it off with, that her parents would like her to be interested in, which is pretty much the only reason she doesn't want to be interested in him. And they get a little drunk and they make a video and submit it to the challenge. So they have to pretend to be engaged, essentially, for this contest, while pretending to her family that they don't like each other at all, because they do kind of like each other, and all sorts of craziness ensues from there. So I enjoyed this one a lot. I thought it was a fun premise. I liked the characters a lot. And I guess I must like the fake engagement thing because it just cracked me up the whole time. So I really do recommend this one. Accidentally Engaged was really cute. And then the last 4 books are a series that I read, and that series is the Bromance Book Club. So the first book in the Bromance Book Club is the Bromance Book Club. And in this one we have a professional baseball, professional sports ball player, and his wife are having severe problems and they're separated. And one of his friends comes over and decides that he needs to help him out. So he introduces him to these other guys that are part of the Bromance Book Club. And so these men read romance novels to try to improve their relationships. So they get him into that, and he's supposed to, so it kind of goes back and forth between the story and like a romance novel that they're reading in all 4 of these books. So it's kind of cute because you have like a little romance novel inside the novel. So anyway, he has to like win back his wife, who has some trust issues due to her own upbringing. And so her sister has moved in with her and their twin daughters to help her out. But the sister also has her own issues because they had a rough upbringing. And so he has to kind of win her back. And so sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't go as well. And it was pretty cute. So I continued on to the next book in the series, which is Undercover Bromance. And in Undercover Bromance, one of the guys from the Bromance Book Club that is not married starts to fall for the sister of our first couple, like the sister that stayed with the the sister who was a side character in the last book is going to be the romantic interest in this one. So Mac is the name of the guy. He is kind of a ladies' man, but he wants to have like more of a relationship, so he's dating this woman, and he's all set to propose to her, or at least like move it to like a more serious level. I don't think he's actually ready to propose, but he takes her to this fancy restaurant and orders this really expensive cupcake. Well, Liz, the sister, is the pastry chef, and she has to bring this out. And in all of this, she drops this really expensive cupcake and gets fired. So she's got a lot going on with her boss, ex-boss, because he's a creep, and she kind of wants to expose him. And Mac wants to help, and as they're kind of doing this, Mac kind of falls for Liz, but Liz is very hesitant because, again, issues in her past. So they have to kind of work through that and also work through this trying to expose this jerk of a restaurant owner that had fired her after dropping the cupcake. So that's kind of how they ended up spending time together, and then romance went from there. So that one was cute. I enjoyed that one quite a bit. But one of Liz's friends, Alexis, is the main character in the next book in the series, which is Crazy Stupid Bromance. And Alexis, at the end of the last book, meets Noah, and Noah is kind of like a computer guy that's a friend of Max. So they become very good friends, and they hang out all the time. And both of them want more, but neither one of them wants to ruin their friendship over it. So in comes the Bromance Book Club, telling Noah that he needs to, woo Alexis and try to move their relationship to the next level, because they all know that he adores her and she adores him, but they just are very shy to do anything. So this kind of is a friends to lovers trope, and this one is cute too. But my favorite of the Bromance Book Club was Isn't It Romantic? And this one is about the Russian. So in the group of guys, we've got Mac, we've got, I think it's Devin maybe from the first book. We've got Noah, we've got several other, we've got a country singer, a football player, and this Russian guy that everybody just refers to as the Russian. Now, the Russian guy has kind of several secrets. He is married, but his wife basically married him so that she could come to the United States because he had a visa to play hockey. And he loves her very much, but when she came over, everything was very awkward at first, and she wanted to go to school. So his wife has been living in Chicago for the last 6 years, and they're in Nashville, I think. They're in the South. So she's off at school. Nobody's ever met the wife. So, in the last book, or one of the books, one of the guys in the Bromance Book Club starts to believe the wife isn't real. And so he's trying to, spy on everything, figure it out. But she is indeed real. And in Isn't It Romantic, the Russian, whose name is Vlad, wants to move things on and have a real marriage with his wife. With his wife, Elena. And Elena comes back, and she decides, this is in a previous book, she comes back and he sees her and he's all excited, but she's kind of I want to go back to Russia. So at the beginning of this book, Vlad has been hiding from all his friends, not going to book club, basically just playing hockey and being sad because Elena wants to go back to Russia. And he hurts himself during a game, and Elena gets a phone call saying, you should come because his parents can't be here. He's going to have surgery. So she hops on a plane and goes to be with him. And so he's going to have some rehab, and eventually they decide that she might as well stay and help take care of him while he's recovering. And of course, things keep going back and forth because it turns out Elena really does love Vlad, and Vlad loves Elena, but Elena feels like she needs to solve the mystery of what happened to her father. So she's like doing all this. She wants to be a reporter. She wants to be a journalist. So she's doing all this investigating, trying to figure things out. Vlad doesn't know that that's what's going on with her. And what he is doing, and has been doing for several years, has been writing his own romance novel. So that's the romance novel we get to kind of go back and forth into in this. And after he's injured, he can't shower himself or anything, and his wife has actually never seen him naked. So he calls his friends over to help him wash. And they find out, because he was looking at it, that he's writing a romance novel, and they decide they want to help. So in their way of helping him finish this romance novel, they're also trying to get him to fix his relationship with Elena. And so we've got the two of them, each with their separate things, just not communicating, and having to learn how to communicate with each other to see if they can make their marriage work. So that one was my favorite. Vlad is hilarious. I love him. The Russian guy who likes to hug people a lot. So those are the Bromance Book Club books, and that's kind of how I finished up the month of October. So I guess that is all for now. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.